startling alarms rang out from Pope Francis in 2024 when he delivered terrifying warnings to Christians, shocking the entire world. The gravity of his message has sparked concerns and curiosity alike. So in this video, let's know the details of Pope Francis's terrifying warning, exploring what it means for Christians worldwide. His belief in hell as a warning. In Christianity, hell is described as a place for people who don't turn away from their sins, as per the Bible. Some think it happens right after death, while others believe it occurs during a final judgment. Today, many theologians see hell as a consequence of refusing to be close to God, rejecting his fairness and kindness, a result of our choices. The Pope, a prominent Christian leader, has spoken about hell in various instances, indicating his belief in it. In 2014, he urged the mafia to change their ways, mentioning hell. In 2016, he emphasized that those who don't open their hearts to Christ might end up in hell. He described hell as the truth that keeps us far from the Lord forever. Once in 2015, Carol asked the Pope why hell exists if God forgives everyone. The Pope appreciated the question and explained hell as a choice, a proud angel's choice to be far from God, rejecting forgiveness. Hell, he said, is when we choose to be distant from God because we don't want his love. It's a decision we make, not something God forces upon us. Modern theologians generally agree with the Pope. They say hell isn't about fire and scary things, but our choices. It's our way of saying no to God and love. If we believe in having the freedom to choose, we must acknowledge the concept of hell. When we close our hearts to love, we are essentially choosing hell for us. In this understanding, hell is like being without love, friends, and connection. God didn't create hell. We brought it upon ourselves through our choices. Then he also talked about the Antichrist's arrival, describing various theories. He first stated the rich billionaire theory about the Antichrist, which revolves around the idea that this ominous figure will be a super wealthy and influential individual. This theory suggests that the Antichrist might use immense riches to control governments and global systems, drawing inspiration from various biblical passages. In Revelation, there's this image of a beast rising from the sea with 10 horns and 7 heads. Revelation 13:1. People interpret these horns and heads as symbolizing different nations or power groups. In the rich billionaire theory context, the Antichrist could be seen as manipulating these structures, possibly tied to international corporations or exerting political influence across multiple countries. The biblical text also mentions how this beast gains authority over people, leading them to worship it due to its overwhelming power. Revelation 13:4. This highlights a wealthy individual's potential influence in today's society. Their vast wealth might allow them to shape public opinion, control media narratives, and even influence political leaders. Moreover, Revelation talks about economic control, where a second beast introduces a system involving a special mark for buying and selling. Revelation 13:16-17 in the rich billionaire theory. This could signify the Antichrist's ability to manipulate global finances or oversee critical technologies, granting them the power to establish economic regulations aligned with their objectives. Next comes the political leader theory. Yet another theory proposes that the Antichrist will emerge as a powerful global political leader, capable of uniting nations under a single government, initially promising peace and prosperity. This leader ultimately diverts people away from their faith in God, aligning with biblical passages like Daniel 7:23-25. In Daniel 7:23-25, there's a mention of a distinct fourth kingdom that will dominate the entire world. This could symbolize the Antichrist's rule over a global government. The verse also hints at this kingdom's forceful or diplomatic control over many nations. Daniel 7:24 adds that 10 kings emerge from this kingdom, with the Antichrist standing out as more powerful and even removing 3 of these kings. This emphasizes his unique leadership qualities stemming from charisma or political prowess. Lastly, Daniel 7:25 predicts that the Antichrist will oppose God, oppress religious believers, and seek to alter laws and customs. This implies an attempt to divert worship from God to himself and reshape societal norms in alignment with his beliefs. The political leader theory portrays the Antichrist as a charismatic political figure, leading people away from their true faith, sparking speculations about various prominent leaders potentially being the Antichrist whenever they rise to power. Then came the rebuilding of the Roman Empire theory. It is yet another perspective on the Antichrist centers around the idea of rebuilding the Roman Empire, not directly from religious texts, but based on historical, geopolitical, and cultural analysis. This theory suggests that a charismatic world leader, identified as the Antichrist, might emerge to restore a global power reminiscent of the ancient Roman Empire. The Roman Empire, known for its vast influence, eventually collapsed. The theory envisions the Antichrist as a leader aiming to bring back a form of global dominance similar to the Romans. In today's context, Rome symbolizes power, governance, and cultural influence. The theory proposes that the Antichrist could rebuild aspects of the Roman Empire, either symbolically or physically, using modern tools like economic alliances, digital communication, and political influence. The Antichrist would be strategic in politics, forming alliances, manipulating international dynamics, and using crises to advance their agenda. Economic power is crucial, with the Antichrist controlling global systems through trade agreements and financial institutions. Technology and communication advancements are also vital. Surveillance, control. Next, another well-known theory, the apostate church leader, suggests that the Antichrist might emerge from within the church as a leader who turns away from the true faith. In the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus warned about false prophets appearing harmless but actually dangerous. This sets the stage for the idea that a deceitful leader could arise within the church, posing as a faithful shepherd while harboring harmful intention. In Jesus' teachings about the end times, he mentioned false prophets leading many astray. This aligns with the thought that the Antichrist might not be an external enemy, but could come from within the church using religious authority to deceive believers. The Apostle Peter also warned about false prophets and teachers bringing destructive teachings, adding to the notion of internal corruption within the church. These references contribute to the theory that the Antichrist could emerge as an apostate church leader before transitioning into a political figure. This idea describes the dangers of spiritual deception and the importance of discernment within Christian communities. Besides being a real human, these theories raise questions about what other forms the Antichrist has been predicted to take. Another comes the alien deception theory. Imagine a different theory about the Antichrist, one that adds a sci-fi twist to end-time stories. Some people suggest that the Antichrist might be an extraterrestrial being blending into humanity with super advanced alien tech. This isn't just about looking like us. It's about mind control, illusions, and even shaping global events. In this tale, the alien Antichrist could turn people into cosmic pawns. This wild idea isn't just a local trick. It's a global deception. World leaders, famous folks, and influential people might unknowingly follow this alien in human disguise. The Antichrist plays a role in both the physical and spiritual worlds, pretending to be a wise figure offering different paths to salvation. The story unfolds with humanity figuring out that an evil extraterrestrial force has been pulling the strings of history. This makes us think hard about who we are, who we can trust, and what's right. This scenario messes with our understanding of how vulnerable we are and blurs the lines between what we know and what's a mystery. In this tale, people might accidentally worship the alien, thinking it's one of us, only to later realize it's the Antichrist. This imaginative story suggests that super advanced aliens could use their tech and charm to The alien might do things that seem like miracles, get a ton of love, and bring in cool new stuff, slowly causing a crisis of faith among its followers. This scenario describes the charismatic leadership, super cool alien tech, and how humans can be easily fooled. It makes us think about our beliefs and what happens when we blindly follow someone or something. It's like a cosmic sci-fi adventure that asks big questions about trust, belief, and the consequences of just going along with the crowd. Finally comes the spirit of the Antichrist theory, suggesting the Antichrist could be connected to super advanced technology and artificial intelligence. This theory focuses on how this Antichrist-like figure might trick and control people, similar to what's described in the book of Revelation. So, the Antichrist hasn't shown up on the world stage yet, but his influence is already here. We need to be alert and smart, recognizing the signs and protecting ourselves from his impact. The Bible warns us about the Antichrist in 1 John 4:3, saying that anyone who doesn't acknowledge Jesus, this is the spirit of the Antichrist, and it's already active in the world. When we look at our world today, we can see it going in a certain direction, with signs that the spirit of the Antichrist is becoming more visible. We must notice these signs and stick to God's teachings. One clear sign of the Antichrist's influence is the rise of secularism and the rejection of God's moral values. People are becoming more focused on themselves, putting their wants first, and often ignoring the well-being of others. This self-centered attitude goes against Jesus' teachings of love and selflessness. The Antichrist spirit thrives in a world that values human desires over God's plan. The spirit of the Antichrist is already at work in our world today. The Apostle John mentioned the Antichrist and how there would be signs leading up to his arrival, all influenced by the same spirit, just as believers can be filled with the Holy Spirit. Some people can be influenced by the spirit of the Antichrist. We can see a decline in respect for Jesus Christ and increased anti-God feelings in society. This is shown in growing lawlessness, a trend that's becoming more noticeable over time. For example, in the past, you could find Bibles in American classrooms and UK hotel rooms. But now, Bibles are disappearing from public spaces, and the fear of God is declining worldwide. All of this is making the path for the arrival of the Antichrist. Some may think that when the Antichrist comes, he'll have to make big changes to the world, but that's not necessarily true. When he does arrive, the world will already be ready for him. The spirit of the Antichrist is working in the world, leading to a decline in the fear of God. This shift is a sign of the times Jesus mentioned in the Bible. So, with these things, is the Pope the false prophet? Some Catholics think that Pope Francis might be the last pope, as predicted by an old Catholic saint named Saint Malachy. Saint Malachy, who lived in Ireland in 1140 AD, made prophecies about future popes. He said there would be 112 popes after his time, and the final one would be called Petrus Romanus, or Peter the Roman, ruling during Judgment Day. This prediction stayed hidden until 1590 when it was first published. Recently, Pope Francis has caught attention because some believe he fits St. Malachy's prophecy as the 112th Pope. St. Malachy's prophecies have been talked about for centuries and came back into discussion when Pope Benedict XVI resigned. People often mention quotes and events during Pope Francis' time to explain why some worry about him. You can find these quotes and incidents in regular news sources, easily checked through Google searches. While these worries exist, it's crucial to know that interpretations of prophecies differ. Keeping faith in Jesus Christ should be the core of one's beliefs. Instances defining Pope Francis as a false prophet. There are some things that some people think show Pope Francis might not be a true prophet. In 2013, Pope Benedict XVI said he would step down, and lightning hit the St. Peter's Dome right after that. In his first talk, Pope Francis jokingly asked God for forgiveness for being chosen. Some saw this as a bad sign. Masonic lodges congratulated him and said big changes were coming. He once said he wanted chaos and trouble in the dioceses. Pope Francis also saw the miracle of Jesus multiplying bread and fish as just sharing, not a miracle. Pope Francis said that even atheists who do good things can be saved, which surprised many. He also made a strange comparison, saying the Holy Spirit is like an apostle of Babel. He made some puzzling remarks about the Virgin Mary, suggesting she might have felt tricked. In 2014, Pope Francis did something surprising. He hosted the first ever Muslim and Jewish prayers and Quran readings at the Vatican. He even sent a message to evangelicals through preacher Kenneth Copeland using an iPhone. During a ceremony, his peace doves were attacked by birds. Pope Francis made statements that raised questions about his language. He accidentally used a strong curse word. He said the Catholic Church shouldn't reject gay marriage and compared Islamic terrorists to Christian fundamentalists. He even talked about baptizing aliens during interfaith meetings. When Pope Francis visited Jordan, there was an earthquake near the Israel border. He met with televangelist Joel Osteen and Kenneth Copeland at the Vatican. He believed in the compatibility of evolution and creation and prayed in Istanbul's Blue Mosque, standing next to a Muslim leader. In 2015, Pope Francis said lost souls don't go to hell, which goes against traditional Catholic beliefs. He made jokes about Jesus' crucifixion and suggested that Jesus begged his parents for forgiveness. He met with a transgender person known as the Devil's Daughter and wondered why children suffer, saying there are no easy answers. During a mass in Paraguay, at least 14 people were bitten by snakes. Pope Francis spoke about Jesus being disobedient when he was young and suggested that Jesus had to ask Mary and Joseph for forgiveness. He admitted to not having answers about why children suffer and pointed to the crucifix as the response. Pope Francis made a statement about the Holy Spirit, creating differences among churches, comparing the Spirit to a false prophet. In 2015, Pope Francis made a strange statement to youth in Nairobi, Kenya, saying he always carries a rosary to pray in the history of God's failure. He repeated this in New York, saying that Jesus' life ended in failure on the cross. Some found these statements unusual, suggesting a different perspective on faith. In 2016, Pope Francis made headlines for a video where he talked about his prayer intentions. This video showed symbols from different religions like Muslim prayer beads, a Buddha statue, and a menorah, but surprisingly, there was no cross. He hinted that John the Baptist doubted Jesus as the Messiah, questioned the Christian faith of a UCS presidential candidate, and praised someone supporting abortion rights. Pope Francis made comparisons between the Islamic conquest and Jesus' words in the Gospel of St. Matthew. He referred to Mother Earth as the giver of life, said Jesus knew temptation in himself, raised St. Mary Magdalene's memorial to the rank of an apostle, and asked for forgiveness from the gay community on behalf of the church. He also connected talking about Islamic violence to Catholic violence. He emphasized building a society focused on the human person, discouraged trying to convince others of one's faith, and called inequality the biggest evil. He suggested that God had weakness and a bad memory, implying God was unfair to his son. There were reports of him mentioning possibly splitting the Catholic Church. In 2017, Pope Francis made some big moves, like appointing a Protestant pastor as the editor of the Argentinian Holy Seas newspaper. He said that Jesus served all and gained authority through service. However, he recorded a Super Bowl video message without mentioning God, which surprised many. Pope Francis controversially denied the existence of Islamic terrorism and allowed seminarians to leave if they disagreed with him. He also seemed to downplay Jesus' stance on divorce. Pope Francis taught that Jesus made himself the devil, said God cannot be God without man, and appointed a pro-abortion theologian to the Pontifical Academy for life. He declared that the Vatican IE liturgical reform was irreversible, but claimed that the most minor sins are those of the flesh. In an unusual remark about the Holy Trinity, he joked that they argue behind closed doors while portraying unity externally. Finally, is he the Antichrist? Some people have ideas about the Antichrist, a figure expected to be powerfully evil during the end time. Some folks believe this figure might be a pope, especially those from the Roman Catholic Church. In history, during the time of the Protestant Reformation, people like Martin Luther thought the Pope of their time was the Antichrist. Even recent popes, like John Paul TI and Benedict XV. The current Pope Francis I might also be seen this way. But why is this happening? Is there anything in the Bible that suggests a pope could be the Antichrist? People link the Pope to the Antichrist based on a verse from the Bible, Revelation 17:9. This verse talks about an evil system represented by a woman on a beast, saying, "The 7 heads are 7 hills on which the woman sits." Long ago, Rome was called the city on 7 hills because it's surrounded by 7 big hills. So the thought is that this system must have a connection with Rome. The Roman Catholic Church is in Rome, so they say it could be linked to in the Bible. Many passages are talking about an Antichrist. Who will lead an anti-God movement in the end times? Daniel 9:27, 2 Thessalonians 2:3, or Revelation 13:5-8. So if the evil world system in the end times is in Rome and led by someone, the Pope is a possible choice. However, some Bible experts argue that the woman in Revelation cannot be the Catholic Church, and the 7 hills don't refer to Rome. They point out that Revelation 17:18 says, "The woman on the beast is the city of Babylon near modern-day Baghdad." They say the 7 hills refer to 7 kings ruling 7 world empires. At the time of Revelation, 5 empires had passed: Egypt, Assyria, Babylon, Medo-Persia, and Greece. 1 Rome was existing, and 1, the Antichrist's empire, was yet to come. No matter who the Antichrist turns out to be, the key is to be aware of their arrival and recognize them, and those sharing their spirit. The Bible explains how to spot the spirit of the Antichrist. Anyone who admits that Jesus came in human form is from God, and anyone who doesn't admit this isn't from God. Pope Francis I acknowledges Jesus as being from God and coming in human form, aligning with the Bible. So, while there might be disagreements about Catholic teachings, Pope Francis' view of Jesus is biblical. This makes it hard to believe he's the Antichrist. The Bible doesn't clearly say which pope, if any, might be the Antichrist, so it's tricky to be certain. A future pope might be the Antichrist or linked to the Antichrist's false prophet. Revelation 13:11-17, especially if they deny Jesus coming in human form. What do you think of the shocking warnings by Pope Francis for 2024? Comment below and subscribe for more.